I now recognize Mr. Olszewski from the great state of Maryland for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, to our ranking member, and to all our witnesses. Appreciate you all being here today and to discuss how we can advance domestic manufacturing for American workers and families. Mr. Mosier, I believe both you and I grew up watching businesses support our neighbors and families, some of those businesses unfortunately being removed from global offshoring. My story involves growing up in the shadow of a steel plant in eastern Baltimore County. It was a Bethlehem Steel site. It was a site that produced steel used to build ships in world wars, parts of the Empire State Building, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. We employed roughly 31,000 steelworkers and other employees at the heyday of the plant. I also watched that plant collapse over several decades and the fallout from people losing their health care, losing their pensions after giving a lifetime of service to that manufacturing here in America. So we do need to uplift the American manufacturing industry. Clearly, I was shocked when we saw the tariff policies of this administration take place. I agree with my colleague, Mr. McGarvey, earlier that it is a tool that can and should be used in important and critical situations. I would have loved to have seen action with tariffs when China was dumping steel, very cheap steel that really put and pushed that plant towards its closure. And so certainly welcome the conversation, but think that tariffs need to be thoughtful as we do that. In 2023, through both the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act, that steel site that I spoke of earlier received investments to become Maryland's first permanent offshore wind turbine factory under a new name, Sparrows Point Steel. Sparrows Point Steel produces the monopile foundations and other steel components that's needed for Maryland offshore wind projects and has the capabilities to service the entire U.S. offshore wind market on the East Coast. It is a job-creating engine there that has the potential to put thousands of people to work, not in China, not in Europe, but right here in America. And my concern is after we've already gone through this experience where we've seen a steel plant shut down, we are now on the cusp of having a revitalization of manufacturing in my district. We are seeing an administration playing political games with arbitrary tariffs, but also skyrocketing healthcare costs, and even trying to cancel support for the very projects they profess to believe in, manufacturing. This administration pulled back a $47.4 million grant from this project, jeopardizing it. How is that making America great again? More recently, we are also dealing with the fallout from the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. It is a critical lifeline not just for Maryland and the Mid-Atlantic, but for moving goods throughout this country. And so I stand ready to continue advancing opportunities and legislation to encourage manufacturing and working on training that was mentioned earlier. And of course, look forward to those productive dialogues. So I have a few questions on that because I'm also concerned about the impact of tariffs on that critical infrastructure project. So first, on the bridge, clearly steel and other components are a big part of that construction. Would the panel here support exemptions for large-scale American infrastructure projects that will rely on tariff goods that are going to drive up costs for businesses, consumers, and taxpayers alike? Is that something that we think we could be supportive of in that work?
Exemptions from what?
Large-scale infrastructure projects such as the rebuild of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore.
Well, I agree that all those components should be sourced in the U.S.
And if not, though, should steel or other products, if they're not sourced here, should they be charged a tariff?
Yes. Yeah.
You think they should? Okay. And then regardless of where the tariffs are coming or your positions on tariffs, I'm just curious for the panel here, going back to that grant for Sparrows Point Steel, do you think we could or should look at ways to use that tariff revenue to support those projects rather than pull that funding from them?
That's a policy question. You've got a million different projects and a lot of hands out. You've got to decide where it best goes.
Well, in general, should
How
we
is
be
this
supportive?
steel-
But should
how
we
is
be
it-
investing in
Should we be investing
manufacturing
in
in the
bridges?
United States, and when we have these kinds of opportunities to reintegrate manufacturing in the United States? I mean, is it good policy to pull awards when we have a $500 million manufacturing project on the books and that's moving forward to then pull that funding?
I don't know enough about it to respond.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize Ms. King Hines from the Northern Mariana Islands for 5 minutes. From the Great Mariana